Tens of thousands of people have crossed this river, fleeing fighting between the Ethiopian National Army and the Tigray People's Liberation Front. They walked for days, dodging militia and bombs. This was their last obstacle on their way to Sudan and to safety. This boat has 50 people on board. Most of them carry just a few items of clothes.
The militias took our belongings. When we wanted to go back home, they shot at us. Many people have had to hide and live in the bush. We were starving. Then we heard a rumor that there was a refugee camp in Sudan.
Tigrayan leaders were part of the governing coalition in Ethiopia for almost 30 years. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power 2 years ago. They recently rebelled against him, accusing him of marginalizing them and the people of Tigray. The Tigray People's Liberation Front and the Ethiopian National Army are both accused of targeting and killing hundreds of civilians and forcing many more to flee their homes. These two families left their village together and walked for nearly 2 weeks. They only have a few more kilometers to go before officially becoming refugees.
We hope that the government is good here and that there is peace. All I know is that we risked our lives and now we want a peaceful government.
Almost 30,000 people have arrived here at the Hamdayat transit camp since the conflict began. The families find an unoccupied space. They have no shelter, so they lie on the ground out in the open and rest.
We found the people who returned to villages, dead in the streets. We had to bury them. We just had to bury them.
Houses were burnt down. There's nothing left in those standing. The militiamen were shouting, "Tigrayans must die, Tigrayans must go." So we came here to be safe.
Communication networks in Tigray were cut off when the conflict began on November 4. They borrow a phone from a fellow refugee. This is the first time the family can speak to relatives outside the region.
Hello, Mullah.
How are you? I'm fine, it's me, Tigay. Yes, I'm fine. They kill people, execute them because they're Tigrayans. So I crossed the river to Sudan. And our sister, Tsahai, do you know where she is?
Unable to cook on their journey, they have not had a proper meal for several days. The World Food Programme provides rations of lentils and sorghum for them and others.
I couldn't take anything with me. I just have these clothes. It's been 6 days since I ate anything other than the seeds I found. It's good to be here.
When night falls, the refugees have no shelter or blankets to keep warm. There are too many refugees for Hamdayat village to accommodate them all. A fellow refugee offers them coffee and advises them to ask to be transferred to a permanent refugee camp where they might find all they need.
I'm leaving tomorrow. Would you like to come with me to Kuba, or would you rather stay here?
Well, I'm thinking of settling in this country. I'm here with some of my children, although others have stayed in Ethiopia. I'm happy to be safe with them. I don't think Ethiopia will ever become our country again because of all the atrocities that have taken place there. I won't go back. The fighting will continue.
Around 40 buses arrived overnight to take those who want to go to the permanent camp. The two families who have just arrived must be registered by the UN before they can also travel. The young woman we met the day before is getting ready to go to the next camp, along with her brother.
There's my uncle and uncle. They already packed and put it in the car. And we're leaving today from the refugee. We are going to Rukuba, and so we were happy.
The Sudanese roads are dusty, so the refugees are given masks for protection. These old buses have already carried thousands of refugees who have faced the violence of war.
Like people were dying. The bombs were coming from Eritrean border. It's they were destroying the houses in the downtown. They destroyed the downtown, so we were really afraid not to die. Then we escaped out.
My problem is that the army told me, come back. This is your country. You must serve in the army or you'll be shot. They were Abiy soldiers and Amhara forces.
What I've seen with my own eyes, there were corpses being burnt because they were Tigrayans. In a place called Abadi Shop, they killed them with knives and machetes. The Amhara forces did that. Some people in Meikadra were about to be killed because they were Tigrayans, some old people.
After several hours of waiting, they finally start the journey. Eris holds her most precious possessions over her knees. She was studying engineering. These are her diplomas. A grain of hope that might allow her to leave the camp if the conflict continues.
I am thinking to write to some of universities if I could get scholarships. And this is all my documents. I will going to scan them and I will going to email to some of the universities.
It takes them 8 hours to drive to this desert plain. Refugees are transported by the hundreds to Rukuba. Here, the shelters are basic for now. They live crammed on top of each other in the suffocating heat. A few hundred meters away, Eris, her brother, and their uncle find some shade under a water tank.
Did you bring water?
There was none.
Eris cooks shiro, a traditional Ethiopian dish bought from other refugees.
They didn't give us plates to serve the food.
We just have to use the pan.
Good idea.
They expected more help from the UN and the Sudanese government. Disappointed, Eris thought about leaving the camp, but changed her mind.
I was thinking to leave today, but my uncle told me to stay because there might be something is improved, like they might give us a shelter.
Eris tries to get help, but in the camp, she can't find anyone in charge who can tell her what to do. She tries her luck with the first group of people she meets.
Hello? What is the process to register? What should I do? I have these documents.
These are not the right ones. You need one like that, and then you can go through the procedure.
She then goes to the Red Crescent to ask for a blanket. But here too, she has no luck. She's told to come back another day.
I'm just here to get the blankets. I've been here yesterday.
Depressed, Eris goes in search of network signal to call a friend who is still in Hamdayat and warn him not to get on the bus.
I think it works here.
If they allow me, I will leave.
I don't think they'll let you come back here.
What do you mean?
You'll have to use all the means available to get out of that camp. Once you enter it, you cannot leave it.
She heads back to her makeshift shelter and finds refuge there in a book. When she fled her city and the bombings, she took it by reflex. Eris knew that her time in the camp would be long. Her family has already experienced such a situation.
I think it's about like 30 years ago. My mom and my grandma was here, just on the same place that we are now. And because they came here because there were a war between Ethiopia and Eritrea, and the Eritrean president says, or he was just attacking Humra, and they were just afraid, and they just came here as a refugee, just like me.
It is impossible to know if she will resume her studies one day or even see her mother. They were separated during the fighting. She has been a refugee in Sudan for 7 days and is already in despair.